Welcome to Fight City NYC. Check us out on the web at www.fightcitynyc.com and also friend us on Facebook. I'm here, I'm Ben Chan, and I'm here with Aris Pina. We do the Punch Zone for HBO. We're the sexiest statisticians in boxing. Now, Aris, I guess we're going to have to talk about the fight that we unfortunately had to do this past weekend, the pay-per-view fight.
We got paid to do it, and I want a refund.
All right. Bernard Hopkins versus Chad Dawson for the light heavyweight championship. I guess somebody won and somebody lost. I think people who watched the fight, whether they paid for it or not, but more so the people who paid for it, were the losers in this fight. So the belt changed hands. I guess welcome Chad Dawson, our new light heavyweight champion of the world.
Awesome. I'm so excited. It's back in my life again.
For those of you who fortunately missed the fight, or all 2 minutes of it, or less than 2 minutes, because it ended in the second round, nothing much happened in the first round. It seemed like a feeling out round, like most bouts.
It's the same as any Bernard Hopkins fight or Chad Dawson fight. Neither guy was going to throw any punches. Hopkins, you can say that maybe he looked his age, but you can't really tell. A lot happens in 12 rounds.
Right.
I think Hopkins was still just gauging his distance, trying to see where he was going to try to place certain punches.
Right.
Dawson did feel like he was in command. He landed the only punch of significance, if there really was one in the first round. That was it. And
yeah,
that's how it looked like it was ended up going.
And then in the second round, I guess Hopkins has his back to the ropes. He's coming in. Chad Dawson is bent over, and Hopkins meets Dawson in his right shoulder, and pushes. Actually lifted Hopkins up a little bit, and then pushed him down. And Hopkins landed on his left elbow, which caused a shoulder injury. It was diagnosed later in the hospital as a separated shoulder, and the fight was halted. Pat Russell, the referee, ruled that there was no foul, accidental or on purpose, so the fight was ruled a TKO and the belt changed hands. Aris, what did you think about Pat Russell's ruling?
I thought it wasn't the right ruling. Honestly, I wouldn't call it a technical knockout in favor of Chad Dawson, because that's what it was. I mean, Dawson did pick him up and he did slam him. Even if it was inadvertent, I mean, obviously he didn't want the fight to end that way. No one did. But it is what it is. That's what happened to Hopkins. Hopkins couldn't continue. And I think what it was not so much what happened to Hopkins, is that Hopkins' past came back to haunt him. Pat Russell is a world-renowned referee. He's known all over the world. He's highly respected. I think what happens was, I'm sure he's seen the Calzaghe fight when Hopkins did flub it a little bit when he was hit with a borderline low blow. He saw him in the Antoine Eccles fight, correct? The Roy Jones fight in the back of the head, the Antoine Eccles fight, where he did get up and continue the fight. Also the Robert Allen fight back in 1998. Mm-hmm. He saw all these different fights. He's seen now Hopkins has a track record for that, maybe, flubbing it a little bit. But at the same time, though, he should have told Bernard Hopkins when he was down like that, something, giving him the right to continue, telling him, look, if you don't get up, you're going to lose by a TKO. He never told him that. He just said, fight's over. And then right after they said fight's over, that's when he mentioned TKO, and that kind of screwed everyone.
Right. Well, it seemed like, I think, from my view, Pat Russell asked him if he could go on.
And Hopkins did say, the one arm, yes.
Uh-huh.
And at the same time, to give the champion the benefit of the doubt, if Bernard really wanted to continue, you should have tried to let him continue.
Right. It seemed, it's hard to say whether, and I don't think it's hard to say. Well, it's clear that Hopkins was injured. It's hard to say whether he really wanted to continue or not, or whether he was trying to get the disqualification, or
that's what Golden Boy is actually going for right now when they filed with the California State Athletic Commission. They're going for the disqualification ruling. But I guarantee you, if they say they'll change to a no contest or no decision, they'll definitely take that also.
Right.
But at the same time, that Dawson did pick him up. That's what it was. Right. He did lift him up off his feet and shove him off like that. Hopkins did go down. That error is a foul. It's not an intentional foul, but still, it's a foul nonetheless.
Now, Aris, I'm looking at my watch, and we spent more time talking about the fight than the actual fight actually happened. So let's say one more thing, and let's move on, because there were some good fights on the undercard. The future of Hopkins. Doug Fisher, writer for the Ring magazine, penned an interesting article saying, maybe it's time for Hopkins to retire. He's still a young 46 years old, but he's still 46 years old, and in boxing, that's pretty old. it's going to be a long road to recover from this shoulder injury. What's next for Hopkins?
I mean, Hopkins is a marvel to watch. We all enjoy seeing what he's been able to do at such an advanced age, but at the same time, facts are facts. He is older. He didn't look that like springy or like a spring chicken against the Dawson fight. He's not getting any younger. Maybe it is time to call it a day. The separated shoulder, he's going to be turning 47 in a couple of months. The separated shoulder is going to take a long time to heal also. By the time he gets back in the ring, he'll be 47 and a half. I mean, what's the point?
Right. I mean, the only guy I might be interested in watching him fight is Tavares Cloud.
And Tavares Cloud is stuck in some litigation with Don King right now, so he's not going to be fighting for a while. It's time to move on.
And other than that, I'd say one name that he has fought in the past, but actually moved down for the Super 6, Glenn Johnson. That might be viable, but other than that,
Antonio Tarver has also been mentioned since he had that big win against Danny Green.
Because their first fight was so exciting. I think at least with Johnson, you might get an interesting fight.
He will, but Johnson has his own issues to deal with Butte, which I love Glenn Johnson. I think he deserves it. So
definitely. So we'll see what's next for Hopkins, and we wish him a speedy recovery.
As far as Chad Dawson, he said he wanted to fight Pascal.
Right.
I hope Pascal beats him because I'm not a fan of Dawson, but I'm not.
But the first fight was a good one, so
by all means, go for it.
So bring it on.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the undercard. Let's start with the first fight night. We had a local guy, Paulie Malignaggi. He was in the ring first time at 147. Second time. I'm sorry. He fought the perfect opponent and did his job. He looked all right. What do you think about his future at
147?
Yeah, welterweight.
Yeah, Malignaggi. I mean, look, he's never going to be a big puncher, and I think that's going to be a huge detriment to him at 147. He still can box with the best of them. He still has very quick hands, good reflexes, good feet, good footwork. He's always been a very competent boxer, above average. But this right now, he's filled out really well at 147. But look at it. I mean, facts are facts. He's slowing down a little bit. The guys at 147 are monsters. You have Bradley just moving up. Pacquiao. You have Lucas Matisse. Exactly. Marcos Maidana is probably going to be moving up. There's a lot of guys there. And Orlando Lara actually put Paulie in serious trouble in the first round.
Right.
Think of a guy like Matisse or someone of that nature hitting him like that too.
Right. Well, maybe there is unfinished business with Devin Alexander. So, I
think that's a fight that will be made. I think that is a fight that will be made, and it will be a good fight. Alexander did just move to 147. They're both promoted by Golden Boy now. It's a good boxing after dark fight.
Definitely. Okay, so elsewhere on the undercard, we had a prospect. We had Danny Garcia versus local guy from Jersey, Kendall Holt. That was actually a drama-filled fight. Kendall Holt showed up and fought a full fight.
He did, but Kendall Holt's always been a front runner, and that's what he did. The first 2 rounds, he looked spectacular. He was landing some great shots. Yeah. But Garcia is a very, very good boxer with, well trained, has great tutelage. And he put his punches together great. Holt didn't know how to handle his body shots. You saw how badly he was getting hurt by those.
Right.
And Garcia put on a great performance. Right. I think he's a big player in the 140-pound division.
Right. I don't think he's ready, for the league guys in the division yet.
No, but he's moving very well.
Yeah, he's got to, I think, straighten out some of his wide punches. But he fought a tough fight with a veteran, Kendall Holt, and so kudos to both of them actually, for Danny Garcia for passing this test, and for Kendall Holt for fighting well. So I'd love to see both of them back in the ring against different opponents. Yeah. And then we had the fight of the night, fight of the year contender. We had Antonio Demarco versus Jorge Linares, and that that ended up being the best.
What a bar burner that was! What a great fight.
That for all of his boxing his technique and. It looked like Linares had control of the fight through the first 2 rounds, but Demarco just kept on coming forward, and kept on, swinging and landing the blows. He cut Linares' nose, actually broke it, and opened up some really nasty cuts. And then in the 11th round, he pulled him away.
Well, you know what it is with Jorge Linares? What an incredible talent he is. I mean, great skills, great balance, great technique, everything about him. But his problem is, and you see this with a few guys with Freddie Roach's fighters, he doesn't know how to calm down. He's always really antsy, always busy, always throwing a bunch of punches. He doesn't know how to take a break, and he's not really good on clinching. He was not boxing Antonio Demarco for most of the fight, looking very good doing it. But Demarco, notice, conserved his energy a lot. He knew that as long as he was landing his punches, sooner or later Linares would start slowing down. Linares has an issue too, that when he starts getting some heavy heat put on him too, he starts slapping his punches when he gets tired. Right. Like he said, he didn't know how to clinch. Demarco really conserved his energy and turned on when need to. Great performance, great win for him. Linares was on his way to winning that fight if it wasn't for his cuts. So I think this should be a rematch. There definitely will be too. Golden Boy is actually protesting the fight. I don't know for what. I mean, they want Linares to bleed out till he died. I mean,
that was a legit stoppage. Linares just wasn't responding.
It wasn't, and I mean, I haven't seen that much blood since a Rocky movie. So
right, he was just kind of stumbling around the ring.
Yeah, that was a very good stoppage. Kudos to Antonio DeMarco, the new WBC lightweight champion. I'd love to see a rematch or DeMarco win with any of those guys from 130, 135, or 140.
Yeah, I mean, it's. Look, I don't think DeMarco has world-class talent.
But he's a very, very tough, solid guy who has good skills. He knows how to fight.
Right, and I remember watching, watching them bring him up on Showbox. So it's nice to see, him get a shot and, take away, because he was brought in to be an opponent. This was supposed to be Linares' showcase, and he definitely stole the show.
He did.
So kudos to, blue-collar fighter, Antonio DeMarco, and, let's see what he can do next in the division.
Sure.
So that was last Saturday. Now let's talk about the fight that we're going to do this Saturday. This Saturday, we get to see one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, depending on where you rank him. Nonito Donaire versus Omar Narvaez. Now, Narvaez is a veteran, 35-0. He's moving up in weight. What else do we know about him?
Omar Narvaez is a very solid guy. Don't get it twisted. This is not a bump for Nonito Donaire's New York City appearance. Omar Narvaez is 35-0. He's a two-time two-division world champion for the WBO. He was WBO flyweight champion. Made 16 defenses of that belt. Now he moved up. He became WBO junior bantamweight champion. Made a few defenses of that. He's beaten a few solid names like Luis Lazarate, Brian Azulam, also the American Reynolds Whitfield. So he has good skills. He has a solid chin. He should provide some rounds for Donaire, but Donaire is so much bigger than him. And he's a super talent. I mean, he's number 4 in the pound-for-pound rankings right now for Ring Magazine. He's coming off that spectacular win over Fernando Montiel. I mean, Top Rank knows what they're doing. They brought in the guy that they know is going to go rounds. He's not going to get knocked out in 3 rounds, but there's not much of a chance also of him beating Donaire. If Donaire comes on his A game, which, from what I saw when I was watching Matt Gleason's, he is on his A game right now.
Yeah, I mean, Donaire is just right now. He's a beast.
He is.
This might be his last fight at bantamweight. What do you think he's going to do next?
Well, after this fight, they plan on moving him to 122, which is a solid division. From what I heard, that they might have him fight Toshiaki Nishioka first, with the Japanese champion, very solid fighter who just beat Rafael Marquez. Right. He also has Jorge Arce, who's rejuvenated. Wilfredo Vasquez Jr. is in the mix. There's a bunch of guys in that division that are still very solid guys that Donaire can move up, and then eventually 126.
Let's see my dream match. Gamboa versus Donaire.
But Gamboa might be moving up. I mean, you still have guys like Juanma Lopez, Mikey Garcia. That Donaire has a bright future ahead, and I'm getting excited thinking about it. Calm down.
So now let's move from talking about guys with bright futures to talking about the Hall of Fame. Aris, you're a voting member, and you just casted your ballot. Why don't you tell us who you voted for?
I mean, I voted for the 10 guys like I do each year, but I'm just going to mention a few of them. The 2 guys that just made it on the ballot this year, there's been 3 new names on the ballot, which was Thomas Hearns, Mark Johnson, and Daruj Mikucheski. I obviously, like everyone else should, they voted for Thomas Hearns. We know his credentials. We know what he's done in his career, so we can't elaborate on that. Mark Two Shop Johnson, one of the greatest lightweight fighters I've ever seen in my lifetime. I mean, just an amazing talent. It's unfortunate by the time he finally made it on HBO, he was a little past his best, but if you saw him in his prime on ESPN, even on the Prime Network in the early 90s, doing his thing on the Great Western Forum, I mean, the guy was just amazing. And he dominated both divisions. It's unfortunate guys like Johnny Tapia, Danny Romero, Michael Carbajal, and so on never got a chance to get in the ring with him, but it's arguable that Johnson would have beat all of them. Definite Hall of Famer in my book. Also, there's a few guys that should be on the ballot each year but never get any recognition. Joey Archer is one of them. Joey Archer is a former middleweight contender from back in the 50s and 60s that was a great talent. Beat a lot of solid guys that no one, he beat Sugar Robinson in his last fight, but that's notwithstanding. He beat a lot of other, Dick Tiger. His only losses were to the very underrated Jose Gonzalez, who no one really hears about back then, a Puerto Rican contender. And he also lost twice in razor-thin split decisions to Emil Griffith. If it wasn't for that, Archer would have been a champion. He would have been a champion in any other era.
And now you also voted for a guy that there's a lot of controversy around. A small guy, who I'm bringing up, the Prince.
Nassim Hamed.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, shine on Hamed and they think, I don't really want to vote for him because of his antics, because of how he looked in his last fight against Barrera. But you got to remember, Hamed cleaned out his division with the exception of Manuel Marquez, Barrera, and Morales. But he fought everyone else and beat everyone else quite convincingly at that.
Right.
I mean, you think of his names: Kevin Kelly, Steve Robinson, Wilfredo Vasquez, Cesar Soto, then Augie Sanchez. Names go on and on. He beat a lot of Tom Johnson, Manuel Medina. The names go on and on that he fought, and in his prime, he was an absolute beast. One of the hardest hitting featherweights of all time. And if he actually takes his career seriously, because rumor has it from people that knew him, he stopped training after the Steve Robinson fight. That was all the way back in 1995. He still was beating guys, big names. Kevin Kelly, like I mentioned, Vuyani Bungu, Paul Engel, all these guys, and he knocked them all out. You know, I mean, Hamed was the truth. And he brought a lot of recognition along with Arturo Gatti and Junior Jones, Barrera, Morales in the late '90s. He brought in the mid to late '90s. He brought that prominence to the later divisions on HBO and Showtime.
Right, and he made boxing exciting.
He did make boxing exciting.
He's part of that little guy revolution.
He was, and for all his faults, for all his inconsistencies, Hamed did his business. He's a definite Hall of Famer. It's unfortunate. I wish we could have seen him against Morales. I wish we could have seen him against Marquez. But for what we had of him, it was a pleasure.
Right, definitely. So I guess that's it for this week. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thank you, Aris.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week.
See you then.